again, remember there are a few things in Shrudi's cabinet that perhaps at the end, see if we can still remember what they are. So,
and everyone gets a bottle then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. You're on now. Yep. Right. Once you've said that, you've got me in. So I've got to write myself memory because otherwise I won't remember it. Okay. So yes, into the serious stuff, into the reason why we're here anyway. So it's the third of the 3 in this series. So the intermediate series. This time we're going to look at employment or employability skills with a focus on that particular area, but in particular around how you might contextualize or adjust or amend, not just adapt is the word, adapt some of the resources that you have for different kinds of audiences. And then how do you support others, help them get into that space as well, looking at the resources they already have or they find, and then how can you actually use good instructional design to change that for different kinds of audiences that we need. So before we get into what we're going to do, let's have a little look. Where's my... Oh, trigger happy there. How did we go looking at an existing resources? I'm going to say I've got my husband's teeth in. How would you go looking at existing employment or employability or return to study type resource and then use any tools to adjust? So there's a couple of options. One is the annotate tool, if you haven't already got that out. Having a look at the little emojis. Somebody who already knows how to play along at home, looking at the little emojis and give us an indicator which illustration best illustrates what it was like to look at a resource, try one of the tools perhaps that we've shown you, or extending your skills within a particular tool to make that improve it or adjust it in a particular way. Oh, so let's start with the happy. I've just seen that one come up. Who can share us what was something that worked really well when you used one of the tools or adjusted what you did with your resource? Anybody want to share their story, Lottie?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it was really nice to sort of look critically at the resource and also decide what was missing. So I added a few examples to help the students sort of understand the context of what they were actually talking about. And I found, so Canva's got this nice little option where if you choose one of their little icons or images, it's got, I think it's called something like magic recommendations, and it takes you to the set that they're from. And I found it very easy to pick a whole set of little icons to go on the page. I also had a go at importing and editing a PDF. So the import, it's still in beta at the moment. You can do it with a free account. You don't need a premium account, because I haven't got a premium account. So some of the tables were a little bit out of alignment. Some of the headings were in the wrong place, but it was so much quicker and easier to just contextualize that resource and just add bits to it, change the fonts and make the layout a little bit better. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad I got to have a go with that import PDF tool.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So it's almost as if it's still in the PDF format. So it's not like the PDF to Word and then you update it in Word and then you save back as a PDF. It stays within the PDF format.
Yeah, you can download it as other formats like a PNG or whatever, but yeah, you just re-download the PDF, and it's converted it in such a way that it looks good as a PDF. So
thank you for being the person that's had a go at that, because I haven't had a chance to do that. And I can see you nodding around that.
Yes,
have you been using it too? Have
right.
you?
Yes, I totally agree. Yes. So it was pretty much what I've done. Yeah, because I worked with PowerPoint, and I was like, wow, time to give it a go with Canva. So it was what I did with mine, and I used exactly the same resource that I had for week 1 task to show some improvement somehow. I felt more much more confident this time. And I think it worked quite well.
Fantastic. Beautiful. Any tips from what you found? Did you anything that you would recommend to somebody who's new at using Canva?
Yes, because it's really friendly, user friendly, and I have the free account, and it works great for me.
Somebody was saying in our session yesterday that if you register, if your centre registers as a not-for-profit, that they can actually have a premium account, but for free. So if you've got any influence in your centre that in your Learn Local or your centre to actually recommend that, and then that you get those premium options. So that might be worth having a look into as well.
Let me know.
Fantastic. Anybody else want to share a good news story before we get in? So if this person's going to, if the person who's given me the stars in the eyes of that, and I'm not so happy, do they want to share, or is it mainly that maybe you didn't get a chance to do it, especially considering I'm considering this to be a short week. So I'm assuming lots of people took Tuesday as a public holiday. Some people have taken Monday to make it a nice long weekend, but that makes it a very short week. So if that's the case, that was you, was it?
Yeah, I've had to do an update of an existing resource yesterday, actually, and do it quite rapidly. So I had to go through it and review it against some, well, they gave me the criteria themselves, and it was all about making it more, case study friendly, having some kind of simulations, and identifying where there's an opportunity to talk about innovation and new directions in that particular industry. So it was quite, so we're in a different cohort. So it's quite difficult because, like when you start off with any kind of criteria, it's a bit hard to understand what they are and then apply them, and so it's a bit of trepidation going through it, actually, a bit of stress. And so, but I got there, but it was quite a bit of work.
So not good that you were feeling that stress, but sometimes that stress or anxiety can make you really focus and make you really pay attention to things that then burn in your brain and keep that long-term memory. But
I know.
Did you come up with any simulations? What did that look like?
Simulation is really kind of, I guess it's in the employability area, it's which is what this was. It was around really low-level introduction to cybersecurity in a business. So it's like Cert 2, I think, or Cert 3 maybe in VET. So simulations kind of involved an opportunity to apply some of the ideas that we have. So, it could be a role play if it was in a live class, but this was a written resource. So it was really about, imagine you're working with this company and this cyber security instance, how could you protect yourself? Here are some strategies. Choose which one might be the best and justify why. So it's kind of that kind of simulation level, sort of, you've got all this big knowledge out here. And how do you, and if you're looking at it as a self-paced sort of learner, how do you kind of progress people through, say, getting the knowledge and then applying it in some way? So, we use all sorts of tricks like quizzes and things like that, but a simulation helps them to think what it would be like. What's the kind of task that you're training for and how would it sort of pan out? So case studies are good for that because they're really just stories about how all these employability skills we're trying to impart work, or, how you use them.
So lots of problem solving and critical thinking and stuff going on in terms of those.
And I promised my partner I'd take her out for a drink for the first time in 25 years, I think. So I had to really rush to get it done. I couldn't renege.
Fantastic. And I don't know if like the branching scenarios, it's probably there's probably in an advanced version of what we're doing within this course. Kathy Moore, when I'm not talking, I'll go and have a little look online and I'll put a link in the chat, but that it's almost like choose your own adventure. Anybody remember, it used to be in a book format for people of my era, where you would read a page and then you could choose what the next part of the story would be, and you choose either page 10 or page 25, and you can kind of, reread the book over and over at times.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's probably the more modern version.
It's an interesting process. I mean, I don't want to take too much time, but because their clients have told us what interactions we were allowed to use. And so the simulations were more described rather than, they didn't want us building sort of scenarios or branching scenarios, but we have done that in other things, and it's has to be really a story. So it's they're hard to write.
Yeah, that's right. They're pretty powerful, but it does take time to do them. But anyway, I'll play around and I'll have a look in a second. Excellent. All right. Anything else about the using the different tools and the different options that Michael's been sharing in terms of what's possible for the next iteration of your adapting resources?
Yeah, with Google Docs, actually, I
Oh.
created a story, make you choose your own adventure, and it was just about the 7 wonders of Word. And Tom and Tina actually goes on, like decides to go 7 wonders of Word. And yeah, it was really very well responded. But I use simple Google Docs. I have used PowerPoint to do that before, but this was Google Docs and it worked really well.
We used to call something like that a web quest. I'm not sure, that's probably old speak too, where you kind of set instructions, but you give some resources for students to actually look at, and then but give them a very kind of clear task of what to do. So they're going to go off on the web and maybe watch a video or read something, and then they need to come back and then put something together. And so yeah, I'll put another link. So I'll find the web quest link and the Kathy Moore link and share those in terms of yeah, as I said, probably getting into advance.
That's great, Trudy. Right? So yeah, because you can have the form, can't you, where you collect like a survey data, and then you can have the quiz, can't you? So
yeah,
is that in the quiz option, and that you?
No, this was a actual storybook sort of thing. So Tom and Tina would choose, like student would choose to go to Great Wall of China first, and then from there was another link. So it was linked rather than and they would choose their adventure like that. But PowerPoint was real sort of adventure. They could hold 6 pages, but this was just 1 page linking at a time, and that page this was for a level 1 students. So just a big picture and little bit about that place, and that's all it was there. PowerPoint 1 was actually, it was a long time ago, but PowerPoint 1 actually we did a whole story. Like if they decide to go into the dungeon, what happens in a dungeon might be 5 or 6 pages, and then after that 6 pages it will link them again, give them the options. That was really for higher level students, but this one worked really well. Like dungeon 1 didn't work as well because students didn't want to read all those stuff. But this one really worked well. Like few I had the most 7 or 8 lines of writing and big pictures.
And PowerPoint's got some really interesting publishing tools. If you set up your PowerPoint and link slides and create buttons out of shapes, and it really is quite powerful. But you can export it out as, I don't know if they call it this now, but they used to call it like a kiosk version. So it had all the files to run the PowerPoint and maintain the interactivity, but you couldn't like see the actual design of the PowerPoint. It's like a totally published version. That
yeah, you save it as a .pps. So create it as the normal .ppt. And then you do the save as a .pps, so it's a PowerPoint show, and yeah, it looks like it's.
Show, that's it.
Nearpod is something similar, but it's like the reason I like Nearpod is because you can embed the video, so students watch video and then go on to the questions and then the things like that. But yes. This one really worked well. I'm looking for that.
yeah, please share that one. So yeah, as Michael said, the hyperlinks within hyperlinking the PowerPoint slides, which traditionally are very linear, which is what I'm working through now. When you put hyperlinks, you can actually make it, you know, move all over the place in a very kind of simple way.
They call it jump, don't they? Jumping.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find a link.
I haven't done WebQuest for a long time. I do still introduce them to people when I do different e-learning programs, and I'll find the link to the WebQuest garden in a little while. But yeah, I haven't done one for a little while. But yeah, they can be quite powerful little tools. All right. So while we're sharing, so look, I think Shrudi's looking for something. Please, if Shrudi, pop it in the chat. Otherwise, don't panic. We can grab it in the Modo, which is good.
Or do you want me to just show you?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. You want to screen share?
Can I?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to remember those things again. I just had a quick look in that cupboard.
Yeah, so these wonders of the word were chosen by students. So not really everything is exactly that way, but oh, where did the entire file go? Okay, let me go.
Wow.
Wow, can this happen?
Because you're presenting.
Yeah, that's right. Something like that. Yeah, maybe refresh the page. Is it?
No, the rest of the.
Well,
okay.
see, Trudy,
If
there's a history there. Yeah, it said last edited by somebody, and you could go to that history and have a look in there.
It was a long time ago, but
yeah, it said 2017. Yeah, I could see that it had been edited by somebody. So maybe
sometimes you get upgraded too and lose features. And
yeah, but if you go to that one, Trudy, again, and just there is a history there. This is a nice little instructional thing around. So just up above your map, see where you've got your tabs where it says file, and keep going along to it says help, and next to it says last edit was made on the 2nd of June 2017 by Victor. So if you click on there, and then click just on the right here on the navigation column on the right, click on the one that has your name on it and the 28th of, and ideally you'll be able to bring it back. It doesn't always work.
Revision history. Yeah, it did not.
No, because no, it doesn't always. Oh, no, what about the one above it? The 104. Is there anything there? Any more down the bottom? No.
No.
Okay, your visual looks pretty incredible though. Did you build that yourself?
Yes, the chart was built by us as a class.
Nice.
But this one is complicated. Rest of the things are interesting. Anyway, if I find it, I will put it on the Moodle.
Pop it in the, that'd be great. Excellent. All right. So anything else, any other really cool things while we're here in terms of, I think we've picked up another 4 or 5 ideas just in that little conversation, which is the power of PD together as opposed to power just of PD on your own. Cool. All right. So excellent job sharing those experiences, and we're all learning a little bit from each other in that space there. So just let me grab on my little pointer. Oh, I found this one here. It's called a vanishing pen. Not sure what the use case is, but I'm going to try and use it now. So, okay, so when we're improving resources, remember we've got that criteria, and I know a number of you have actually used that in your first week's activity to actually give some, critique or also consider what could be improved. So choose the resource, look at the criteria and go, okay, which bits of it do I need to improve on, which I think was really, really powerful. We're also encouraging you to share your knowledge and move it on to others in your network. So within your community houses or within the networks through your online, whichever online profiles you may have. But when we are supporting others and helping others improve their resources, we need to use that constructive feedback, which the criteria works really well in terms of talking to the criteria rather than using, I don't like, or I think it would be better this way. Instead, you're using good instructional design. We've got a whole range of tools. As I said, we just picked up at least another 4 in that conversation there. And where possible, do what you're doing with us, and that share it with other people. Again, there's a two-way street. One is that you're imparting your knowledge with other people. They get to see these amazing different ideas, but at the same time, you're getting some valuable feedback or opportunities to use that information or resource in a different kind of way. So continue on doing exactly what you're doing is the message there. So Michael, I'll hand it across to you, I think.
I want to throw back to Shruti because she's you just found her document. So yeah, feel free to share it, Shruti.
Yep. It was wonders of the word, not 7 wonders of the word. Yeah, so basically, yeah, so they are planning the trip, and then these are the different places people can go. And then option 1 was, okay, so people, when they click on the thing, I'm going. Oh, what's our meeting code? Okay, I might as well, I just want to, okay. No. Oh, yeah. So it goes to the Taj Mahal, little bit of writing, and then from there they choose whatever, and that's where they go. And last, like, can everyone see and hear me?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Shruti, are you using, how are you because obviously this is one document. So this is,
Yes.
it's still Google Docs, I can see. So you're hyperlinking to a page, are you?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I knew how to do that in slides, Google Slides, and I know how to do it through a table of contents, but you can actually link to a page. All right.
Yeah, and table of contents was there, which was deleted afterwards, but we did have, pretty sure we did have a table of contents at the top, and these components were linked. So Colosseum was linked to the place Colosseum, but eventually we just fiddled with it and removed it in the last time. But yeah, it was really nice. Like students loved it because there was not much of the reading on the page, and then at the end they didn't. They returned to the page, returned to home, and the Great Wall of China. So this really worked well, and this was a class thing, so everyone participated into that. And then when they come home, they are have nice and having beers.
And pizza with some white radish.
And Shruti, did you build that yourself, or did the students add to that as well?
Oh, we decided, like I did it on the present, like power. What do you call?
Google Docs.
And the presenter, the
overhead projector.
Overhead, yes. Overhead projector, and students decided, okay, we want this picture, we want that, and we would take this much information. And students were writing, like somebody wrote about the Taj Mahal, somebody wrote about Great Wall of China, and then we put it all together.
Fantastic. Right. Because it's in a Google Doc, or if you use Word 365, they could type as well in each.
Yes, they collaborated.
Yeah, that's where the Google Slides or the PowerPoint 365, you can allocate each student a slide and they can actually populate. So I've just found that WebQuest link. So there's another kind of version in the link in the chat there where people have already created clever, like Shruti has created these different web quests that you can actually get students to use. It might be useful as well. Okay. Any more, Michael? Shall I come back to the? All right, I'll come back. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Shruti. That looked incredible. Your students and you should be very proud of that.
Good on you, Shruti. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to have a talk today about, well, an activity actually. We're going to look at a couple of employability activities, and we're going to think about how we might adapt them for different audiences or different cohorts, and also how we might adapt them for different modes. So we can do that pretty shortly. But one of the other briefs of this program from ACFI was building not only your skills, as we've seen there from Shruti, from all your submissions that we've had to date, but also to consolidate that knowledge and understand your own understanding of instructional design. As Alison said, gathering all that experience and evaluations that you've applied to resources over the years, and kind of trying to hone it down into a kind of set of benchmarks that are universal, but also probably specific to you, your area, your understanding of your learners, and then helping others that you work with or in your sector to hone their own instructional design skills as well. So to help them see where things could be improved, and also to, for you to suggest tools and activities and ways of facilitating resources that, may not be so great, may not meet instructional design criteria, but still, you haven't got time, you're not getting paid to adapt them, you can use in a classroom with some adaptation around types of activities you do and types of facilitations too. So it's almost like saying, okay, let's have a look at the people in the sector who come to these sessions who've, got a bit of innovation about them, got a bit of pizzazz, and as we saw from Shruti's cupboard there, and set yourself up as a little bit as kind of senior educators in a way, or senior facilitators that can help others around you. So that's really kind of important. So we're going to spend a bit of time talking about what that might mean in terms of what things you might be able to talk with people about, improving the instructional design, the types of way you might couch your feedback to them. Then we'll talk a bit about sustaining the momentum of where you've come in our short time together. And some of you have been through both programs with us, and we thank you for that. And then what you need to do to, get your certificate from Valgan. Most of you are kind of well on the way to that. So let's start having a bit of a look at some of these resources. We're going to do a bit of a scenario where we look at a couple of resources and consider, the fact that they often developed with a certain audience in mind by whoever creates them, and even generic resources. I was looking at a couple yesterday from Northern Territory. They were written for a specific kind of target audience, and so they would work well for them, but maybe not work so well for others. So what do we need to think about when we adapt them for those audiences? But also, as we come back out of COVID, students are going to come back to class, but there might also be some thinking that you do around, well, how could we maybe maintain some online element, whether it be live or whether it be self-paced, probably more live. So let's broaden our skills to think about how we might use a particular resource and how we might have to think about how we adapt it or facilitate it, say, in a classroom. But there might be some limitations with how that approach works in the online, but there might be some other opportunities to broaden what we can do in there. So we're going to look at it from that kind of lens today. So first one's hierarchy of control. What I might do is I might show you this. So let me just grab the link. Thanks, Alison. And nice bit of bass. Hopefully be able to hear this.
The hierarchy of controls. The level of risk associated with an event can be established by assessing the chance of the event happening, likelihood, and the potential harm or damage the event could cause, consequences. Plan and implement controls to eliminate or reduce risks before you proceed with your task. Some types of controls are more effective than others. Use the hierarchy of controls to choose the best method. Eliminating the hazard, physically removing it, is the most effective hazard control. Substitution, the second most effective hazard control, involves replacing something that produces a hazard, similar to elimination, with something that does not produce a hazard. The third most effective means of controlling hazards is engineered controls. These do not eliminate hazards, but rather isolate people from hazards. Administrative controls are changes to the way people work. Examples of administrative controls include procedure changes, employment training, and installation of signs and warning labels, such as those in the Hazardous Chemical Information System. Personal protective equipment, PPE, is the last line of defence. It acts as a barrier to limit your exposure to hazards. PPE must be used to supplement higher levels of control. As you go about your work, continue to monitor the effectiveness of those controls and look for any changes to the task or work area. For more safety and training solutions,
All right, so that's that one. Like I picked that one because you know, every time we talk about employability, the safety comes up. And so people working in organizational situations, then, you know, three things come up all the time. And it doesn't matter what level you're teaching at. So risk, hazard, and then this awful cumbersome thing called the hierarchy of controls, which is always really difficult for anybody to get their head around, particularly when you're not working and you can't kind of see it. So it's kind of a bit of a dog metaphor for that one. So that's one you're going to have a look at and think about how you might adapt it. Alison's got another one.
Mine's nowhere near as fancy as that. I've gone for the other. And so basically what's going to happen is we're going to put you into a breakout room. And if you get into breakout room one, you're going to critique this, not critique it, sorry, adapt this resource to use in a classroom. So that's what we've got the video to look into classroom. I've got a fairly traditional kind of workbook around study skills. I would like you to focus in on one area because there's a number of pages, so the resource might be useful beyond just this little activity. But I want you to think about, when I give you the link in for the breakout room, how might you adapt this for an online setting? Right? So, and maybe focus in on a particular group. Maybe it's like long-term unemployed who are online. So how could you adapt this kind of resource to that particular setting? Fantastic, Michael's already got it. Okay, so then what we're going to do, as I said, we'll put you into the two breakout rooms. And just quickly before we do the breakout rooms, when you come out, we'll talk about, well, what kind of tools could you use to adapt this, and what will you adapt and what tools will you use for the video, and then in a classroom setting, and then for the fairly traditional kind of handout that you'd give a paper-based in a classroom, how could you adapt that for an online setting, and what tools would you use? So, Michael, I think we're ready for that.
Ready to go?
Yep.
They're going to be small breakout rooms. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So room number one is going to be Lottie and Shruti. So you've got the video. And number two is going to be Anna and Paul. You've got the resource. So here we go. You get an invite now, and we'll give you about 8 minutes for this. And we'll keep you updated how you're going. Okay.
Excellent. Can you make me magically close? So excellent. Thank you for those small little group activities. It's often really nice just to have a one-on-one conversation with somebody else and come up with some ideas. So we don't need to use the whiteboard, but you can, if you want to, use the annotate tool. So first of all, maybe if we, as a group, you've all seen the video. What kind of things, maybe Shruti and Lottie, maybe to start with, what kind of things would you do to adapt that for a classroom type environment?
Okay, there's a couple of things we talked about. I'll let Shruti talk about her ideas, but so what I would do is I would make cards with the different controls, and I would we'd talk about what the different controls are, and you know, get them, putting them in order. So which were, so probably doing this as a group activity, so which are the most effective and which are the least effective, and then getting them to pick one of those cards and then talk about one control. So probably give them a scenario, maybe the scenario of the dog, or a different scenario that might be more appropriate to what they're talking about, what they, you know, what they're learning about, and yeah, getting them to think about the different types of controls.
What tool would you use to create those cards?
I would probably use Canva.
I was thinking the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, the nice thing about the Canva is that once you've got that kind of pattern to replicate that and bring it down as different versions would be great. PowerPoint would work really well too, I imagine, because you can kind of then print out the different pages on there. So fantastic idea.
Yeah, Shruti had some. Yeah.
Yeah, we thought of stopping the video halfway through, showing just first half of the video, and then students brainstorm and discuss what happened, and then they predict what will happen, and then we talk about, then we play rest of the video. But to adapt it into the classroom scenario, instead of using breakout rooms, we'll have the class discussions and brainstorms in that scenario.
Yeah, fantastic. That strategy of giving them a little bit of information and then stopping and going, well, what do you think is going to happen next? Because that actually makes them really have to think. They have to consider what they already know and make predictions, which is a really good way of retention. So comprehension and retention strategies were fantastic there.
And the tools I would use would be Scrumler, because Scrumler actually allows you to discuss the thing, like jot the points, then vote on them, and then do the brainstorming only about the points which are voted the most. And I really like those 3 phases of Scrumler.
So there's another link you'll need to find us now, Shruti, because
sure.
I haven't heard of that one. I must say see the online book, the ebook link, I've already passed that on to somebody else. I should have let you know that earlier to the session. So yeah, this Scrumler looks really good. So is this something they can do on their mobile phone? So if you're doing it in a classroom, so this is some of the things that I'm thinking about is as you transition back into classroom environments, we're hoping that you're going to take the essence and the fantastic stuff you've been doing online and still use it in the classroom, but you're not necessarily going to always be in a computer suite. So yeah, the Scrumler sounds amazing. A little tool. I'm always looking for things that you can use on mobile phones, because there are a number of people who are identifying that that's where their learners are at. So I'm going to have a look. Okay, so it's kind of like, sounds like it's something to do with project management, is it?
It's really can't be, it's not like Miro, which is a real project management tool, which I find difficult to use, like not so convincing. But this one here, if you want me to share the screen.
So I've got it here. Oops, I need to quickly say this one first. So
no, yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. So do they have to log in?
No.
Nice.
So exactly what you have on the board, people could actually write advantages, disadvantages, or in our scenario, what's happening in the video, how could we it affect? It can be 2 columns made into there, and then students just write with the link sent to them. They will just type in that particular column, and then you can analyze the score, vote on it, and it's amazing. Yeah, click on start. This is a simple retro. So if you click on start.
Doesn't want to play. Oh, here it comes. Oh, so straight away, I don't even have to log in.
No,
I love it. I love it.
And the students don't need login, and positives and negatives. It can be about anything. You just add. Yeah.
I'm the major mule.
And then you send the link through and people will, once you mark it as done, it stops, but yeah.
Oh, Lottie, you're in there. So you might, do you have it? You lost or logged in or something with one of your logins and so on? Fantastic.
Give a name.
So
Yeah, this
you've
is
got
like sorry.
No, you go, Shruti.
This is like a Padlet, but Padlet has its limitations. I think it's good for brainstorming, but it doesn't do any further thing. So the way at the top it is phase 1. If you click on the arrow, it actually allows for people up at the top. Yeah. Left, top left. Yeah. If you click on the arrow, it allows people to vote. So people can click on and vote for that. And then phase 3 actually talks about most of the votes they have got, and then you can brainstorm that. And I feel really, because now we didn't have enough votes, but usually what I do is I gather lots of the ideas and lots of the votes, and it will then actually allow you to create the discussion about the topic in the phase 3, which is a discussion, which I feel is amazing.
So that is and visually really nice and mobile phone friendly. Tick, tick, tick.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
I would do 2 columns, positive and negatives, or good suggestions, something like that. When you create the board, you would do that.
Okay. So there's some playing. I'd need to play around with it, but that's all right. We've got them. Might just show you then quickly with another mobile friendly use. So Padlet, Michael's talked about in the chat. There's another one. It's nowhere near as nice looking as this, but it's called Blau Chat.
Oh.
As I said, it's really good because you can do it on mobile phones. I use it for like if you've got a large group of people and you want to get their interaction. So usually if I'm presenting to a large group, I use this, and it's just basically a chat room. And when you click on, you put your details in there. Let me on my computer. And it's like the old, if you ever remember the old-fashioned chat rooms. So again, mobile friendly. So you can create they can just type in blauchat.886AI, and then you've got a chat room that you could be using that in the classroom and setting as well. So Michael, I did put that in the link so people have got access to Blau Chat as well. The Swamp Fox. Oh, the mule. I'm no longer the mule. Somebody's taken my identity. So yeah, have obviously some ideas as to what it is that you want to do. It's not as funky as that one though, the Scrumler, but it does allow for that kind of back channel if you wanted to encourage that as well. Yes. Yes, I know who the Swamp Fox is now. Yes, it takes me back to the old Swamp. Excellent. All right. So some good things about bringing the technology into the classroom. So the videos are right because you control that as the teacher. So up on the screen, but here's some tools that you can use to bring students collaboratively sharing and creating and decision making through their mobile phones, and ideally they can use some of your data that you've got at your centres. Oh, okay, fantastic. All right, so we've gone certainly we've gone full steam ahead with all of these new tools to play with from after this session. But what about if we have to take a fairly traditional kind of resource, Paul, and I gave you a fairly traditional, pretty kind of stock standard stuff that that you might see pre-COVID, and then bringing that into an online environment. Let me put it up on the screen. Any suggestions on how you might kind of adapt this to an online space?
We're talking about our cohort. We're talking about students whose English is not the first language, that we would stick to PowerPoint, adding some graphics, and also going breaking into the tasks to make it easier for them to understand the content, and obviously using plain English.
So it's, yeah, so nice. So bringing it into the PowerPoint environment and perhaps simplifying some of it. I wonder if one of the rules is to remember the rules. So maybe the very first one is, you know, how do you remember kind of help features and so on. Excellent. So visuals, important tool, PowerPoint. Anything else that you might do, or anybody else got suggestions on how you might zhuzh this up a little bit for that the online environment can actually allow you to do?
Well, I don't know about Anna's class. You know, we both teach skills for work and study, but with my one, this is like a study skills guide, and so it's kind of, you know, you would like to give them some kind of pointers to try and consolidate what they have learned in your class, but it would be I don't know, for my particular class, I would, you know, how we've got the 7 tips here, I would break it down to 1 tip a week, like tip of the week.
Yeah.
Just so they've got the one takeaway. And yeah, just because I'm teaching with PowerPoint anyway, just integrate it with that.
Yeah, no, PowerPoint's pretty powerful still. And then the use of, if you're using something like Zoom or most webinar tools either have some sort of annotate. So it may be that you just have that one tip. And then, as Michael says, you might ask a question like, well, what some of the things that you would do to, what does motivated interest look like for you? What does it actually look, what does motivated interest actually look like? Or sometimes what I get people to do is go to Google Images and find an image that just illustrates what does motivated interest look like, or whatever topic it might be. And then get them to share that link either through the chat. Sometimes I get them to put it into Word 365. So you've got the whole page and they pop there, show them how to copy and paste and pop their images in, and then we'd have discussions around that as well. Excellent. All right, thank you. So again, I've got some great ideas that I'm going to be borrowing and attributing, obviously. And so we've got good uses of tools, good use of adaptability, and remembering that we kind of cross the beams both ways, especially when you get more and more back into the classroom. All right, I can see we're going to, I might move through some of these quickly because we've done really well sharing lots of other ideas. But so, is there anything else that you would like to know about, or anything else that could help us help others adapt their resources? That's part of the idea of, as you build your skills and knowledge, is there anything else that you would like to learn more about to help you then support others, or anything you need to help you support others adapt any existing resources? I'll just give you a moment to think first. And again, feel free to use the annotate. Okay, yep. That one's reasonably easy to kill, the copyright one. My usually quick thing about copyright is either leave it there and take the person to it. So you might see that PowerPoint slide, that PDF that I had before. I didn't give you the actual PDF. Well, I did, but I gave you the link. I didn't download it and give you it out of my Dropbox. I actually took the link from their website and gave you the link from the website. So copyrights, either just leave it where it is or attribute it. But there is smart copying as well, the smartcopying.edu.au as well. So copyright's important. Any other suggestions about copyright? I've got one more.
I have written that ebook on copyright, which is about, which is mostly about the Creative Commons copyrights. So basically what I have done is what 4.0 allows you to do and what the others allow you to do. That was really useful. because I never remember what which one is a share alike just by looking at the numbers. So really, I created it for my reference initially, but it was good when students had a look at it. They could refer to it quickly.
Okay, yes, so that's a fantastic, sounds like an amazing resources. So so that links in, let me find my little, there's my annotate hidden away too. This will be fun. No, I can't do anything. Where's it gone? Maybe if I hide that, I'll come back. Weird. Ah, there you are, down there. I can't move anything until I've got my bar back again. Yep, so that, yeah, the different licenses. So remembering everything that's created has copyright automatic. All right, so if something's created, it automatically has copyright. The creative, I think we're talking about the Creative Commons license here. I'm just going to put it in there. Creative Commons licenses allows people to assert or tell others how they can use that resource. So again, Creative Commons, I'd love to see that ebook if you're happy to share, Shruti.
Yeah,
but totally understand. But yeah, they if you see those CC symbols, they give you some indication. Or as you know, like in Unsplash and in the Creative Commons search, etc., you can actually search just by Creative Commons. So you don't even have to remember what they mean, because it will actually, you can say like, I want one that lets me share alike and so on. Beautiful. So this is what you might be offering. This person here offered to help a peer with their resources. So you feel you need some more help with that. Is that something? Does anybody want to talk to that?
That was me.
Okay, beautiful. And so then good understanding what they do. So yeah, some of it's about playing yourself with yourself, or listening to others. I find by listening to you guys, I can then share that with other people that we work with. Paul, do you need some more information about the use of images? Does that kind of sit under here?
You know, using, yeah, just what you were saying about the copyright and you know, just you know, accessing tools like Unsplash, so you don't have to worry about that so much.
Yeah. So
you know,
yeah.
And it's that thing where, you know, particularly if you have to plan, you're probably planning over the holidays, and you're spending hours and hours stressing out over a particular lesson, and then you have a 5-minute conversation with one of your colleagues, and all the problems of the world are solved. It's unbelievable, isn't it? You know. So yeah, so conversations, just a conversation can be very useful.
Absolutely. So make sure you tap into your local library staff too. Not necessarily all copyright experts, but they often have a good understanding of what's okay and what's not. So if you're don't want to bother your colleagues while you're on holidays, generally the library staff are available too. Excellent. All right. So there is that kind of area, and that's evolving for all of us. As I said, 2 kind of rules for me is try to find something that's got Creative Commons, or leave it where it is. Like leave it where it is and take the people there is usually what I do. Okay. And the good naming conventions, we can talk about that. There's a whole half a session around that too. All right. I'm going to move on from here. As I said, there's a couple of things we want to get through, but also leave time for wrapping up as well. Oops, sorry. Let me just grab that last one here. Okay, all right, so that's another good one. Building a repository of information, of activities. It's another area to consider. And I think some of the stuff we're going to talk about will build on that nicely as well. All right, so there it is. This is the things that you want to know. What's some of the activities that you can do to enable you to build on that knowledge? What can you do to help you beyond this program? So we've talked about copyright, that, you know, the repository of activities. What's some of the things, what's your go-to things to do to help you maintain that? So Paul talked about talking to colleagues. Anything else you do?
Another thing is what we've been doing today this morning, sharing links.
So where do you share them, Paul?
I'll just, with my colleagues, just send out an email.
Okay.
You know.
Do you have a group or something?
Oh, I mainly send it to the coordinators.
Okay.
And, you know, and if I think that there's something that's particularly good for skills for work and study, I'll send it to those guys.
Beautiful.
You
So
know.
we've got some of that coming through. That kind of, I've said phone a friend, but contact them. Does anybody use any of the social media spaces for these sorts of things?
We used to use WhatsApp with the class, though, not with the teachers. Teachers was the sort of at Glenroy, we used to do that. But with students, I do use it, WhatsApp.
So that's a great way of building that community of learners through the WhatsApp. And so perhaps there's an opportunity, not necessarily maybe through a WhatsApp group, but through other spaces. So like I use Twitter. When I open up a web browser, I always have Twitter as my homepage, and I follow people who have similar interests, and mostly they're all educators or instructional designers, or think thought leaders, etc. And so when I open up my browser, I've got 2 or 3 posts that I can have a look at about what's interesting going on in those particular worlds. So the social media can work really well. Any last ones?
Tried Slack.
So how do you work with Slack to extend your knowledge of things? Because I was going to say, Shruti, you know a lot of things. I was going to ask, where do you find all your bits and pieces from?
Mainly, I do collaborate, with lots of the people outside the country. And what I found out is there are certain things very common in that country which we don't know and don't use. So that's how I get to, I am in association with some group from the US and UK and India. And yeah, that's how I actually gather my resources.
Beautiful. And so, yes, that works in nicely, the project funds in there. So absolutely, I can concur for that. So that I find actually working with other people, okay, Michael, in this case, your actual what you can learn can double, triple really, really quickly. Excellent. All right, I'm going to capture these. I hope I did get that quickly. So think about that. How are you going to continue to grow with the time and the resources that you have? We've just got some suggestions here in terms of some of the techniques that you've already got. So continue to experiment. It's one of those. The online spaces, if you choose the right places and then choose the right people within those places. So Facebook can still be a really good space if you choose to use it for a particular purpose for your own professional development. I'm a bit of a LinkedIn person. As I said, my Twitter's really my go-to, but there are others as well. Set yourself a project, or if you can, apply for project funds, or see if you can actually, if there's opportunities within your networks that they're looking for people to be part of a project, jump into the projects, because that's again where that working with other people is where you can learn so much. Just one other one before I'll hand it across, I think, to you, Michael, is this mentor, if possible, working with somebody who you aspire, or they have skills similar to what you're looking for. And sometimes you can do it by stealth. I've often done that by stealth, where I've just kind of reached out and asked lots of questions, or watched from afar in terms of, try to mimic what they do as well. So, all right, let me just grab that one that's there. No, Michael, I'll hand it to you.
So look at some ways of, how you might build your own skills. But now, what are some actual strategies that you might use to develop your colleagues' instructional design skills and knowledge? What are some actual methods and things that you can do with them to build those skills? Yeah, that's a great one. Sharing your own work and discussing what worked and what didn't. And even, like the process of sharing tools is a great way of kind of drawing a bit of attention to yourself. And if you're okay with this, being seen as a bit of a go-to person for particular things. There's always someone in the office that knows how to use a photocopier or knows how to solve an internet problem or is really good with tech and getting things working, then you could be that person for, improving resources. If that's interesting too, because it's like an always interesting thing. I remember community management saying to me once when we were going to appoint a woman to be our coordinator, and she'd had a lot of experience, and they said, "Oh yeah, but she's going to do all this PD with us, and then she's going to leave. We're going to spend all this money." And I said, "But yeah, but she's going to come into us having had that experience as well." So it's almost like should be a bit of a given that we share what we know. Show them different tools. Yeah, I mean, tools are really good, I think, to show people when you've got like a context, like with Shrudi's activity, and showing a particular problem that she had, or maybe an opportunity is more the thing, to kind of creative opportunity that she created to, extend what you wanted to do and make it more interesting and a bit more, students had control over the resource that they could kind of use. And that's where project is really good too, because you've got a central focus. So much PD doesn't actually lead to an outcome. It might sow some seeds for you, but you sometimes have to go to a few PDs to kind of get the right seed to kind of sit. And really, I got into digital learning because I went to a workshop that was in Footscray, and I was in Ballarat, and I didn't know anything about e-learning. And there were these people who were doing things and getting involved, and I got really inspired because it was kind of a new thing, and that sort of set me on the way. It was really important. Create a shared folder, share your resources, and ask people to share their resources too. That's a really good idea. We've done this in Edmodo as well. If you want to have a look, we've put all your submissions into the folder there. And there's another folder inside called submissions. So if you want to see what other people have done in our game, then you can kind of do them as well. So Shruti, yeah. Shruti needs a lot of video channel, I reckon. Often run PD or show info meetings. This is kind of another share and tell. And discuss ways to improve existing resources. It's a rip up, and we're going to talk a little bit more about how you might manage that process in a moment. Have we got any other things that you might think of?
Yeah, I feel that like whenever I am helping Olympic adult education with IT support for the teachers, and I always tell teachers that not everything out there you need to try it is going to work for you, particularly when something new comes. I tend to try everything and then try to implement it, but not necessarily everything is created for every sort of activity. So I just tell teachers that don't stress if you don't get one of the tools, try another one.
That's a really good tip. And also, we've all been in a situation where we've used a tool because it's fabulous, and then it suddenly goes out of business or it gets taken over and it's kind of, missing and gone. But, the other thing with tools as well is also maybe to have that conversation with your PDs about kind of mindsets about students. And, I can remember a lot of discussions about, oh, look, I'd love to use this, but my students couldn't cope with it. I wouldn't be able to use the technology. And often that's a bit of a coda for perhaps their own anxiety. And, I'm kind of the belief that you can really take students wherever you want to if you do it kind of in the right way, and it's relevant to them and it's authentic. But it's important to address that, I think, if that comes up. And it's often a bit of a tricky conversation. And COVID's forced that conversation on the entire education sector, which is perhaps one of the positive things about it for education. Drop-in workshop, Paul. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. That means you have a lunchtime session, or
At Wyndham CEC, Wayne Burrell mainly runs those. And if you know Wayne, you know that he's pretty much a Google freak. He's got Google certification.
Oh,
So
right.
he just knows it inside and out. So he maybe about, I don't know, 4 o'clock when everybody's finished their classes, he would organise like an informal workshop, about Google Forms or Google Docs or whatnot, and show you all the tricks that us mere mortals don't know anything about. But
He's a very entertaining man too, isn't he? So it makes
yeah,
it engaging, interesting.
And the best thing is that it's targeted, and and it's like what you were saying before about the tools that kind of extends to platforms, because everybody was going to him in a panic last year saying, oh, what should I do? Should I go on Zoom or Google Classroom or Skype? And he was saying, just start with what your students are comfortable with. That's the number one thing, instead of throwing them in at the deep end, I suppose.
Yeah, and I hope you got a big box of chocolates this year for all that kind of work. And sort of like taking jump and presenting at local PD events and activities is also good. I mean, I don't know if I still have regional conferences or not, but that was always a bit of an opportunity to see what other people are doing and maybe present your own kind of ideas and things. And you're never going to reach everybody because everybody's at a different point in the journey of their own understanding. But you never know what seed you might sow, and people might come back to you, oh, you 15 months later and say, you showed me this thing, and now I'm giving it a go. And you just kind of have to be a bit almost evangelical for the interests that you have in not only promoting your own and pursuing your own skills, but also using those as a way to draw that light onto others. All right, brilliant. Well, there's some really good strategies there and some good ideas. So then the next question is, well, you're going to probably have to provide some sort of feedback to your colleagues about your resources. So, what sort of feedback might work best when because it could be seen as a little bit condescending or challenging or anxiety raising to have someone go through your resources and provide you feedback. I just got a review document yesterday of what I've written and seeing all the changes that I've got to make. You've got to kind of shake that off a little bit, but it is difficult to do. So, okay, so these are some questions that you might raise. They're appropriate for the cohort. That can always open a good discussion. Yeah, who is the cohort? It's finding that sort of, it's almost a bit about opening a question, isn't it? Perhaps before we start to go bang in with the feedback. And so there's a number of questions we can ask, and that's a potentially good place to start. Assertive and sensible without being invasive. Yeah, it's kind of, you have to use all your charm, which I know you've all got, and all your kind of empathic ears to make that happen. And coming from your own experience is a really good point to show that you've been in that position, that you've been part of a progression yourself. And I've been where you've been, and it's a bit of a struggle to get out of it. Asking about the purpose of the activity as well. And a feedback sandwich. Yep, absolutely. And sometimes we can kind of, start with an open question about what works well, or, what do you think of your resource? Is it, and just see what comes out, or how would you, this is pretty good, but how would you improve it? Just a really wide open question to kind of dredge up what you might particularly ask. Is this the sort of conversation where you feel you might meet resistance? I'm sure that's probably where you're assertive and sensible. comes in. I've got some good strategies there. And like feedback should always be about suggested improvements and also acknowledging what works well. Yeah, and yeah, I'm learning that you've got some criteria that you're judging it by. It's not like a personal opinion about what you like, and because someone gives you that sort of criticism, you probably want to go around and see their bathroom and see what their color scheme is, and then you can kind of determine whether that's good feedback or not.
Right.
Oh.
You're not invited to my house anymore. Anyway, sorry.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, so we're a little off the end of this particular program's journey. We've had the 3 sessions. The first session was trying to help you find an existing resource and use that good instructional design criteria to have that language that you can use yourself and a direction as to what does make a good learning resource using that criteria. And we ask you to go and find an existing resource and find ways that you might improve on that. Then for the second section, we asked you to look at that resource now, perhaps looking different types of tools. You know, using the Canvas come up pretty popular across the programs, but also, you know, getting in and using some of the features of the tools that you already use. So we were all pretty au fait with Word, but are we all over what Word can actually offer? And maybe we can try Word in something like Word 365. That means students can use things like immersive reader. So we'd really love you, as you are doing now, such a wonderful job. Think about what it is. I'll just be quiet for a moment. Think about at least one of the things that you can take away from being part of this particular program. Yeah, so there's some those ones on there. So yeah, the one thing also that, thank you for popping it up there. We've got collaborative documents. What about the actual opportunity to collaborate with one another? So if you think about, you know, the one idea, then this morning one idea, then hit another idea, and now I think I don't know, I'm going to say about 8 or 9 different tools come up just out of those sorts of stuff. So that opportunity to whether it's a project or whether, like Michael said, you kind of put yourself out there and invite people into what you're doing, but getting involved with other people wherever possible, even through social media, can work really well as well. So thank you for that. Any last ones before we move on? Yes, so that collective collaborative stuff really works well, and also about how other people view things, which I think works in well here. This one's yours, Paul, because it was in the chat as well, but where you look at something and then you listen to somebody else or read what somebody else has written, and then kind of benchmark, you know, what was I assuming, what do I need to take into account when I'm looking at the resource. And I think what stood out for me is we can't, as in Michael and I can't just pull a resource out of anywhere and just put it in front and say, what do you think of this? Because we haven't actually given it a context. We haven't said what it was involved with, what's the background of it, who the potential resources are, and so on. So it's really important we have all of that information before we can actually put some of that criteria into place.
Yeah, I just think that in a, you know, what can we call it, a post-COVID world, you know, you don't have, and you know, I know it was an excuse to begin with, but surely you can no longer have that assumption that, oh, my students can't do this, because, you know, over the past 18 months, their capacity for this and their appetite for this kind of stuff is just unbelievable, you know, and so that's what we're doing in the end, you know, we're capacity building as well as, you know, teaching whatever we need to, you know, learn what the students need to learn in our delivery.
So yeah, look, Michael and I've been playing this game for a long time, and so it's, you know, it's been a long road, and for now, for kind of everybody to be nearly on the same page, which is why I've been thinking about, and I'm really keen to encourage others to think about, well, as we move back into the classroom, what part of these practices do we bring back in to bring with us, and not go back to what was traditionally a fairly paper-based type environment. Even myself, I'm like, well, what will I be able to do now that I don't have to take those wads of paper in with me for very good reasons? So yeah, there's the yin and the yang of where we've been in the last 18 months. And one of them, certainly from a teaching perspective, we've seen people's teaching methodologies increase dramatically, but also everybody's digital literacy, including our students, improve, which is so important when we can think about things like where MyGov and so on is taking us. So as I said, we are towards the end. I've got a link in the chat. So if you don't mind just spending a few moments now completing that survey. So that survey will go to VELG, but that information, VELG Training, who's helped manage the overarching part of the program, that will use that information to feed back into ACFI and the Learn Local people in terms of what's useful, and perhaps if there's room in there, make sure you tell them the sorts of things that you need to go on into the future as well for your professional development. So I'm going to be quiet for a couple of minutes and then we'll wrap up.
Is the link in the chat?
Yeah, can you see it, Shruti? Try it again. Is that better?
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. So maybe another couple of seconds, and if you haven't finished it, just hold the tab where it is and we'll just wrap up, and then ideally you can finish it when we're finished here. So if you don't mind just finishing off what you're looking at now and coming back into the Zoom space. As I said, it's really good if you could please complete that survey. That would be really useful for feeding back into the ACFI team. We would like, as in all of our other sessions, we've applied an action learning model, which is you've come, you've learned, you've discussed, you've shared, you've grown. Now we want you to think about that on an individual perspective and do some reflective thinking around, well, how can you use the information you've learned through the program and instructional design to adapt existing, should say, employability skills, ES, learning resources, provide support to others, so paying forward some of the things that you have learned yourself. So how can you help build that? And then how can you continue yourself? How do you keep feeding yourself, which is really, really important, and what strategies will you use? So that will all be in the Edmodo coming up soon in terms of what you need to do. We will let VELG know in terms of where you're at with your program, for which that will then release that certificate of participation. and to demonstrate your involvement in the program. It's just gone after 11 o'clock in Victoria, so if you can stay and you've got any questions, please do. Otherwise, I would like to just have a quick thank you. So thank you for being part of this program. This is the last time we'll see you for this particular program. We've got one more for the non-formal next Friday, but if we don't see you for that, then I'd like to say thank you. I have really, really enjoyed the experience of learning so much and really having time to think about, well, what is quality instructional design and what is quality graphic design when we're supporting learning. Michael, do you want to say a couple of words?
Yeah, it's been fantastic to hear everybody's stories. And, I kind of got my start in the Learn Local sector. It wasn't called that then, it's called ACFI. But yeah, it's been nice to go back there and see what people are doing. And, it kind of reinforced to me, as I thought then, it's kind of a good fight in education and training. And you're doing a fantastic job, and hats off to you all. It's a really under-resourced and appreciated, but hugely important sector to people's progression in life and self-esteem and their happiness. So thanks for joining us and giving us your time. It's been fantastic to meet you all.
Beautiful. So as I said, I can hang around for a little while, but you've got all our contact details. You don't need to see that. But if you don't mind finishing off that survey, otherwise, bode you well and enjoy the next part of your instructional design journey.